Welcome to the Level Editor progress update for a Match-3 game that I'm currently working on. The Level Editor currently works using two scriptable objects, one for creating the individual levels, and one that holds all the individual pieces that will be used in the Match-3 game. Let's take a look at the pieces first. So this scriptable object contains all the pieces that can possibly be used inside of the Match-3 game. There are 5 different layers for the pieces. You have your standard game pieces, which are your normal match-3 pieces that the player will use to create matches on the board, and also has the random pieces for instantiating levels. You have special pieces, which are the bombs and horizontal clears that players get after making a set number of matches. Background pieces that go behind your game pieces. These the player makes matches on top of in order to decrement or take hits. Blocker pieces that inhibit player movement, either by physically holding pieces in place or taking up places on the board. And finally, generator pieces, which are your spawners and portals and other pieces that might allow alter piece movement on the board. Now each of these pieces are going to have different kinds of fields. Blocker pieces and background pieces, for example, have a number of hits they need to take in order to be destroyed or to move on to the next piece in their list. So for example, if this chain block 2 takes a hit inside the game, it will then become a chain block 1, and after that it will become empty. Generator pieces, like portals, have cascading fields and options and a bunch of flags that can be set to determine what kind of generator piece they are. Finally, special pieces have a bunch of fields that allow them to be tapped, can set their radius for certain sizing of explosions, or you also have the field to set their spawn number. So when a player makes a match of this number, this specific special piece will be spawned. Let's go ahead and add a game piece. To do that, we'll switch over to our game pieces, and we'll click this plus button up here to add the new game piece. Let's call it Orange Gem, and let's give it a text. Let's grab it a piece texture from one that I've already previously selected. We want this piece to be able to take a special hit, as it's a general match piece, and we can set its piece type to a general match piece. Empty pieces are pieces that can hold a match piece, but never don't necessarily start with one, while random you'll see later on the board. And if we want to get rid of this piece, we can select it, keep it selected, and then go ahead and hit the minus button, where we are greeted with a prompt that has, "Are you sure you want to remove this piece?" Which we do. Now let's go to the custom level editor. To do that, we'll go create a scriptable object, level editor, and we'll call it level editor video. Let's go ahead and lock our screen here, inspector. Now the level editor does not work until you have master pieces connected to it. So we'll take our master pieces scriptable object, drag it over, and now we have access to all the functionality of the level editor. Let's start by creating a board. Let's create one with 12 wide and 8 high. Come over here and click the Generate New Board button, and as you can see, our board is populated with the default set random piece that we set over in Master Pieces. From here, if we want to add pieces to the board, we come over to the Piece Painter, and here we have access to that list of all the pieces inside of Master Pieces. You also have additional filters to search by piece type, for example, background pieces or special pieces. In addition, there's a filter string. So say we wanted to look just for the gems, and they all appear right in here. Let's go ahead and paste a few green gems onto the board. Over here in the corner, and we'll add a few of these yellow gems right along here. 8, 9, that's good. We can also come in here, get rid of our filter, and let's add a few background pieces along the bottom here. Oops. To get rid of that, we can just select an empty background piece and override that. And finally, let's add some chain pieces. Some blockers and some chain 2s. As you can see, whatever piece is selected will appear in the upper left-hand corner, along with its name and the type about it. If you want to take a look on the board and see what each individual location has in terms of pieces, you can come down to the Piece Selector option and select on a piece. Here you're given the coordinates of the selected piece and what each layer is. So for example, at 0, 7, we have a background 1, which is this cobblestone background, a green gem, no special piece, as game pieces and special pieces cannot exist on the same place. We have a chain block, which is our chain 2, and there's no portal, so portal link defaults to -1. We'll get to that later. As we come and look over at x1, y7, you'll see that piece is to random piece and that there is no blocker piece currently out there. If we come up one more spot, you see it's just a random piece there. Now, this board is looking a little wide. I don't necessarily like how big it is, so let's go ahead and turn the width down to 8. But we want to still keep some of the data on the board. From here, we can click Resize Board, and what this will do is it will cut off any columns and rows that are outside of the new width. So for example, with zero-based indexing, everything after column 7 is going to be cut off. But because our height still doesn't change, nothing will change down here. We'll go ahead and resize the board, and as you can see, those pieces are removed from the side. If we want to increase the size of the board, for example, to make a 9 by 9, we can do the same thing. Except with this time, it will just add random pieces, the default random piece, in a whole new row and column until we have the desired width. Like so. This board's also a little messy, and let's start over again. Now, I do have the option to create a new level. What this will do is this will get rid of all your moves, win conditions, everything on the board, and create a whole new level, which is not necessarily what we want. We just want a new board. So we can come over here to the Generate New Board button, and it will only get rid of the board, not any of the other win conditions, spawning, boosters, etc. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to our piece painter, and we'll start by placing some boxes here. Let's place them around the edges here. 5 down. Grab our game pieces and remove them from behind, our empty game piece selected. And let's place a few green gems to encourage the player to make some matches next to these boxes. Alright, now we need to add win conditions. To do that, we'll select the win conditions tab, add 2 win conditions, what we want here, and we're greeted with a nice little pop-up. Our first win condition is we want green gems, and the player needs to break 25 green gems over the course of the game to win. Our second win condition, let's go ahead and make these hitboxes. Now, instead of having to count all these boxes, let's do a break all. For the current functionality of the level editor, if you type -1 for the win conditions, that will tell as a break all. When the level is started, it will count all the total on the board, in this case just 10 boxes, and that will be the condition. But allows for nice expandability. If I wanted to come in here and add 2 more boxes, I now no longer have to go back to my win conditions and edit. It will know that there are 12 boxes on the board. Finally, let's set our moves and level number. 30 moves sounds about right. Level number 1, and let's come here and save our file. These have to go into the resource folder of assets, a folder here, and we'll call it level 1 video. As you can see, I have exported masterpieces already. And there we go. The other part of this level editor is that you can import levels you've already worked on and continue working on them. Let's do that now. To do so, come up here to Import, go drill into your Resources folder, and I've already prepped a level to show off. And as you can see, pops up nice in here, and all the data's changed. Remember how it was level number 1 and move 30? Well, that's accurately been represented. Same for the win conditions. And as you can see here, we have 2 sets of break alls. If we come back down to Piece Selector, you'll notice that we now have portals on the board. If we click on select these pieces, you can see that each portal is linked together. For example, this portal in 04 is linked to the portal in 2.2. Same thing with the portal in 6.2. That is portal link 1, and that gets linked to the portal in 8.4. To do so, when you are placing a portal piece, you are greeted with an option to set the current portal link. For example, if we wanted to place a new set of portals here, we'll create a portal link 2. Let's grab a top piece up here, place it on 3.0. We'll grab a bottom piece still at portal link 2, and let's place that over here at 8.5 or 5.8. And now if we come back to the piece selector, you can see that our new portal links are updated for those locations. One additional feature of Piece Painter is that you have filters that show on the board just for displaying whether or not you want to see something on the board. It will still exist there, but for example, say I wanted to take a look and see if there were any game pieces hiding behind my blocker pieces. I can simply turn those off and those disappear from the view. This can be done for the background pieces, the game pieces, as shown the blocker pieces, or any combination of any of the following, which is a nice way to help the designer out. Finally, let's go back up and save our level, now that we've made this portal change. We'll click the Save button. This time, since the file already exists, we aren't greeted with the same prompt to enter a file name as such. It already knows which file is being saved. If we wanted to create a new file and keep our old data, we can just do the Save As, and we're greeted with your standard Windows save. And that's the progress so far. If you want to see what the level editor looked like a month earlier, when it was only a few weeks into the project, or if you want to see any of my previous game projects on my website, check out the links in the description below.